David and Emma looked at each other across the table. The young couple were happy. The food was delicious, the light from the candles was soft, and the music was perfect. David looked at Emma's beautiful smile. All the pain of his last breakup disappeared. All his doubts and fears about love had gone. His hand reached out and touched hers. "I want to ask you something." David searched her eyes. Could she guess what was coming? Her smile made him feel brave. She held his hand. "Don't worry. Whatever it is, I'll probably say yes." He felt so excited. He was about to ask the most important question of his life. From the corner of the restaurant, a strange man watched them. He sat very still at his table. He held a menu, but he wasn't reading it. Instead, his cold eyes looked only at the young couple. Back at their table, David suddenly felt nervous. "Excuse me," he said to Emma. He pushed his chair back and went to the toilet. As he looked in the mirror, he told himself, "Come on, David. Come on. You can do this, mate. She's crazy about you." Feeling ready, he went out of the bathroom. He almost walked into the extremely tall man who was waiting by the door. The man's eyes were a cold, bright blue. His face was pale with a sharp, pointed nose and thin, pale lips. "Oh, sorry," said David. "Which one?" the man hissed. He spoke with a strong and strange accent. David had never heard that accent before. For a moment, David was confused. Then he realized what the other man meant. "Oh, this one," said David helpfully. "This is the men's toilet." David went back into the restaurant. He reached for the ring in a box in his pocket. It was time to ask her. The taxi ride home was wonderful. The happy couple discussed their future life together. They shared their sweet feelings about each other. "The night I asked you to marry me," said David. "The night I said yes," replied Emma. "Just think, our whole lives together." "Sharing, caring," he began. "Loving, giving." Emma finished his sentence. They smiled at each other in loving excitement. "You are so wonderful," said David. "And you're absolutely beautiful," said Emma. "I've never met anyone so lovely and kind. I'm so happy I could sing." They entered their block of flats, holding hands. A tall man watched them from the shadows. Which one? He asked himself. He watched the building. He was waiting for a light to come on, to show him which flat was theirs. 1 minute passed. 2. There it was. The light went on in a third-floor window. He saw Emma for a moment as she closed the curtains. How many times had he stood on a corner like this? How many victims had he watched? Many corners. Many victims. His pale lips formed a thin smile. He moved out of the shadows to the door and pressed the buttons for every flat. The vampire was always pleased when people lived in flats. Sooner or later, someone always let you in. Silly humans. They thought you were someone's pizza delivery. It was a kind of invitation, and that was all he needed to enter a home. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor and walked down the hall. He didn't make a sound. He could hear the young couple laughing and talking. He put his ear against the door. He could hear what they were saying, and he was happy. Young love made the sweetest blood. It was so full of life and energy. "I feel as if I'm in a film," she was saying. "More like a dream," he replied. "Yes, a dream. How lucky we are." "Guess who I'll be dreaming about tonight?" he said. "Who? Who?" "Her hair smells of roses. She's like an angel." Their dream was about to become a nightmare, the listening vampire thought. Suddenly he opened the door and stood there, showing his sharp teeth. The couple screamed and then held each other in terrified silence. The vampire could smell and taste their fear. This was how he liked it. Fear also made the blood sweeter. "There's my wallet. On the table there." "Take it," said David. Take anything you want. I will take anything I want, the vampire replied. Fine, fine. We won't stop you, I promise, David cried. You won't stop me, I promise, replied the vampire. The light shone on the sharp teeth. A terrible thought came to David and Emma at the same time. Look at his teeth. Is he a vampire? Which one? The vampire hissed. It can be only one. The couple's eyes were big and afraid, their mouths open in horror. They held each other's hands and their stomachs filled with fear. Already tonight, continued the vampire, I have drunk from 3. One more. Then I can sleep and feel young again. The vampire moved towards them. Instinct made David step in front of Emma to protect her. Emma gratefully held onto his back. The vampire wasn't in a hurry. He had plenty of time. Who should he attack? He asked himself. Which one? Thank you, Emma said quietly in David's ear, for what you're doing for me. Of course, my love. I'm here to protect you. He felt proud as he said the words. He could fight this vampire. All he needed was a piece of wood or something to push through the heart. He looked around for something. You're so brave to offer yourself, continued Emma. Sorry? Asked David. What are you talking about? Oh, said Emma. I just thought that with your love for me and everything. David and the vampire looked at each other. Now listen, Emma, there is no doubt about my love for you. Really? She replied. She didn't believe him. But you can't expect me to just give him my life. I wasn't saying you should, she said. It's just one of our options, that's all. Well, think of another one, he shouted. Why don't you offer yourself to him to save me? The atmosphere in the room had certainly turned ugly. The vampire was not pleased that the fear and love were now silly, selfish arguments. Emma was very angry. I hope you're joking. Let's see how strong your love is. What a horrible man. What about the woman I was planning to marry, offering me to a vampire like a bone to a dog? You said my hair smells of roses, she cried. All right, relax. David was a little embarrassed to be having this argument in front of a stranger. I'm an angel, you said, she carried on shouting. Must drink, shouted the vampire angrily as he came even closer. He wanted to make a quick kill. Then he could get away from these terrible people as soon as possible. His eyes opened wider and his teeth were bared. Which one? Her! David pointed at his future wife. Him! Screamed Emma in anger. Please, him! The vampire approached David. She's younger, sweeter, said David. The vampire turned to Emma. He's bigger, there's more of him. She pointed at David. Suddenly the vampire felt tired. He had been killing for many centuries. Listening to them was depressing. How could he feel good by drinking the blood of either of these disgusting creatures? He looked down at their terrified faces and shouted, Bad blood! And with that, he disappeared into the night air and left Emma and David alone together. Together, as they had promised, for the rest of their lives.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. We unpack complex ideas, find those surprising facts.
Yeah.
The ones that make everything click.
Exactly. And today we're doing something a bit different, a real deep dive into words themselves.
That's right. This is our English Learning Marathon vocabulary episode.
Yeah.
We're focusing on some really useful, kind of cool words from that story. Bad blood. I'm your guide today.
And I'm here too, helping us navigate. Our goal for you is pretty straightforward today.
Yeah.
We want to make sure every key word, every phrase from Bad Blood is crystal clear. We'll break them down, give simple examples, and show how they actually worked in the story.
How they added that, flavor and tension.
Precisely. Think of it like a vocabulary masterclass, but like straight from the story itself.
Exactly. not just definitions. We're showing how these words live in the context, build a scene, make it all come alive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're ready to boost your English vocab and really get the power of words, let's jump in. We've got a lot to cover.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with shine. So when something shines, it gives off light or maybe reflects light. Like, think of the sun.
Yeah, or just a lamp in a room, making it bright. A simple example is the sun shines in the sky, makes everything warm and bright, right?
Right.
But in Bad Blood, it gets interesting. This word shine, it takes on this almost sinister feel.
How so?
The story says the light shone on the vampire's teeth. So it's not just light, it's this reflection that becomes a sort of terrifying gleam.
Ah, I see. It highlights his teeth, makes him seem predatory.
Exactly. It shows how even a really simple word can carry a ton of meaning depending on the context.
That's a great point. Turns a normal thing into something menacing. Okay, moving on. Our next word, against.
Against. This basically means something is touching something else, often with a bit of pressure, you know?
So like leaning on it?
Yeah, kind of. If you say he put his head against the door, it means his head was literally touching the door, pressing on it.
Okay. It's about contact, being close.
Right, which could be comforting or, in this story, maybe threatening.
Makes sense. Now let's talk movement, approach.
Approach. To approach means to go closer to something or someone.
Getting near.
Yeah, moving towards a person or a place, like the cat slowly approached the mouse.
Okay, I can picture that. Careful, deliberate movement.
Exactly. And in the story, the vampire's approach. It's slow, isn't it? Deliberate.
Which just makes it worse for David and Emma. More dread.
Totally. Makes his presence feel, like, inescapable.
And what did his approach reveal? Well, that brings us to bare. B-A-R-E.
Right. Bare. When something is bare, it just means there's nothing covering it. It's exposed.
So like if my feet are bare?
Then you don't have shoes or socks on. They're uncovered. Plain to see.
Got it. And the story uses it chillingly, right?
Oh, yeah. The vampire's teeth were bared. That means they were showing, fully visible, not hidden behind his lips.
A clear sign of aggression then. Ready to attack.
Definitely a really strong visual cue for danger.
Okay, now the vampire himself, he's old, very old. Which leads us to century.
Century. C-E-N-T-U-R-Y. It's a unit of time. Specifically, 100 years.
A long time.
A very long time. So 1 century is 100 years, and 2 centuries are 200 years. Pretty simple math.
And the story says the vampire lived for.
Many centuries. That tells us immediately he's ancient. He's seen so much time pass.
Adds to that mysterious, powerful vibe he has.
Absolutely.
Now let's switch gears a bit. Think about how David and Emma felt. Our next word is confuse.
Confuse. If you're confused, you don't understand something right. You feel mixed up, unsure.
Yeah, we've all been there. Like, I was confused when the teacher spoke too fast.
Yeah.
You just can't follow.
Exactly. And in Bad Blood, remember, David, he was confused at first when the man said, which one?
Right, he didn't get it. That moment of disorientation.
Before the scary reality really sinks in, yeah.
And that confusion turns into understanding what kind of creature they're dealing with.
Creature. C-R-E-A-T-U-R-E. It's basically any living thing.
So people, animals.
Yeah. A person, an animal. Or something maybe imaginary or strange, like a monster or a vampire.
So a dog is a creature, a bird is a creature.
Right. And in our story, crucially, a vampire is a scary creature. It sets him apart, highlights his non-human, supernatural nature.
Okay, before things got really bad, Emma tried to get some privacy with a curtain.
Right, a curtain, C-U-R-T-A-I-N. Just a piece of cloth you hang over a window.
To block light or stop people looking in.
Yeah, like at night we close the curtains. Simple enough.
But in this story.
Emma closes the curtains. And it's kind of ironic, isn't it? She's trying to create privacy, but it actually seals them in with the danger.
Yeah, highlights that lost sense of safety. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
The vampire, meanwhile, he wasn't impressed by their argument. Which brings us to disgust.
Disgust. D-I-S-G-U-S-T. It's a really strong feeling, like intense dislike or revulsion.
Because something is just unpleasant or wrong.
Yeah, or dirty or morally bad. You know that feeling if, say, the food was dirty, I felt disgust? It's that gut reaction.
Okay, and the vampire felt that.
Yeah, the story says he looked at the couple arguing and felt disgust, which is fascinating.
Why fascinating?
Well, it suggests he's not just hungry. He has this sort of twisted sense of aesthetics, maybe. He finds their human fight messy, maybe, beneath him.
Adds another layer to them. Now, their argument, David had doubt about their relationship before all this, right?
Right. Doubt. D-O-U-B-T. If you have a doubt, you're just not sure about something. You have questions, you feel uncertain.
That little nagging feeling, I have a doubt. I don't know if this is true.
Exactly. You're questioning it. But in the story, David, trying to show Emma he loves her, he says he has no doubts.
Trying to be certain, even when things are falling apart.
Yeah, reinforcing their bond under that immense pressure.
And talk about pressure. Imagine fighting in front of a vampire. That would definitely embarrass you.
Oh, totally. Embarrass. E-M-B-A-R-R-A-S. To feel embarrassed is to feel shy or awkward, maybe a bit ashamed because something silly happened and people saw.
That cringy feeling like, I felt embarrassed when I fell in front of people.
Yeah.
You wish the ground would swallow you up.
Exactly that. And David felt it because he was caught in this really personal, kind of silly argument with Emma right there with the vampire watching.
Human vulnerability meets monstrous evil. Yeah.
Pretty awkward.
That embarrassment quickly turned to fear, though. F-E-A-R.
Fear, the feeling you get when you're scared. Simple as that. Makes your heart pound, you know?
The opposite of feeling safe. I felt fear when I heard a loud noise at night. That jumpy feeling.
Right. But what's really chilling in the story is that the vampire liked fear. It says it made people's blood taste better to him.
Ugh, that's horrible. Which is actually our next word. Horrible.
Ha, good transition. Horrible. H-O-R-R-I-B-L-E. It just means very, very bad. Awful, unpleasant.
Like, that smell is horrible. Something really repulsive.
Exactly. And in Bad Blood, David and Emma had a horrible argument.
It describes the fight, yeah, but it also sort of hints at the truly horrible situation coming up. Foreshadowing. Okay. And then there's horror. H-O-R-R-R. How's that different from fear?
Horror is like fear amplified. It's stronger, deeper. That intense dread you get from really scary movies or, nightmares.
Oh, okay. I watched a horror movie and I was very scared by that intense, gripping feeling.
That's the one. So when the couple looked at the vampire, the story says they looked in horror. They were utterly, profoundly terrified, frozen in fear, basically.
Intense stuff. But the vampire, he didn't seem fazed. He didn't hurry.
No, he didn't hurry. H-U-R-R-Y. To hurry means to do something quickly, to rush, move fast.
Like when you're late. We're late. Let's hurry. Speed up.
Exactly. But the vampire, he did the opposite. He didn't hurry. He took his time, moved slowly.
Which, for David and Emma, just made the fear worse, right?
Absolutely. That lack of urgency from the bad guy, it's a classic way to build suspense. Makes him seem even more in control.
Now, David, trying to be brave, he uses the word mate, right?
He does. Mate. M-A-T-E. It's a really common word for friend, especially in British English. Informal, friendly.
Like, hi, mate. How are you?
Yeah. But the way David uses it is interesting. He says it to himself. Come on, mate.
Like a pep talk.
Exactly. It shows his internal struggle, trying to gather his courage. Like talking to a friend inside his own head.
That's quite poignant. The whole situation, it felt like a nightmare.
Oh, definitely. Nightmare. N-I-G-H-T-M-A-R-E. It's just a bad dream, isn't it? One that scares you.
Yeah. I had a nightmare about monsters. The opposite of a nice dream.
Right. And for David and Emma, their romantic evening, their happy dream, it turned into a nightmare the moment the vampire showed up.
That sudden shift from joy to terror.
Bang. Just like that.
So David gets desperate. He tries to offer something.
Yes, offer. O-F-F-E-R. To offer means you say you're willing to give something or make it available.
Like, I offer you my help. A gesture of giving.
Precisely. And David, he offered his wallet to the vampire.
Hoping money would work.
Yeah, a very human, kind of desperate attempt to bargain with something supernatural shows how powerless he felt.
And the vampire. He looked the part, didn't he? Very pale.
Pale, P-A-L-E, describes really light skin color. Like someone who's maybe sick or hasn't seen the sun, almost white sometimes.
So if she is pale because she is not feeling well, it suggests illness or maybe fright.
Yeah, lack of color. And the vampire had a pale face and lips. It's a classic vampire look, isn't it?
Totally. Hints at that unnatural bloodless thing. Makes him seem eerie.
Definitely adds to the creepiness.
And the vampire seemed to have plenty of time.
Plenty. P-L-E-N-T-Y means a lot, or more than enough. Suggests abundance.
Like there's plenty of food at the party, no shortage.
Right. And for the vampire having plenty of time, well, it just emphasizes total control, didn't it?
Yeah, made his slow movements even more agonizing for the couple. He wasn't rushed at all.
Not one bit.
But even in that fear, David felt proud.
He did. Proud. P-R-U-D. It's that feeling of happiness or satisfaction when you or someone you know does something good or brave or skillful.
Like, I'm proud of my schoolwork, feeling good about an achievement.
Exactly. And David felt proud when he stood in front of Emma trying to protect her.
A moment of courage against all odds.
A really human moment, yeah. Defiance.
When things got really bad, people would shout.
Shout. S-H-O-U-T. To talk very, very loudly, often because you're angry or scared or maybe excited.
Raising your voice. The baby shouted because he was hungry.
His attention. Right. And in Bad Blood, people shouted when they were scared or angry. It just emphasizes those raw, high emotions in the room.
From their argument to their terror, yeah.
Mm.
The story even calls their fight silly, S-I-L-L-Y.
Yeah, silly means not serious, maybe a bit foolish, but usually in a light way.
Like he made a silly face. Funny, not serious.
Right, but calling their fight silly in that moment,
Yeah.
it's kind of darkly funny, isn't it?
Highlights the absurdity, human pettiness versus this huge horror.
Exactly. Arguing over who's going to be the victim while the actual monster is right there.
Crazy. And the vampire often just sat still.
Still. S-T-I-L-L means not moving, motionless. Like, please sit still for the photo. Don't move a muscle.
Yeah. And the vampire sat very still, not moving at all. That stillness, it's really unsettling.
Why?
It suggests he's watching, patient, but incredibly dangerous. It contrasts so much with the couple's panic and fear.
Okay, I get that. Very unnerving. And their fear was physical, right? Felt in their stomach.
Yes, stomach. S-T-O-M-A-C-H, your belly, basically, where food goes.
Like, I ate too much, now my stomach hurts. That internal part.
Right. And the story says they felt fear in their stomachs. It's such a strong description of dread, that knot in your gut.
Shows how fear just takes over your whole body.
Totally. A visceral reaction.
Things changed suddenly.
Suddenly. S-U-D-E-N-L-Y means very fast, without warning, unexpectedly.
Like snap. Suddenly the lights went off. Instant change.
Right. And the vampire suddenly opened the door. That abrupt entrance. It just shattered the atmosphere, didn't it?
Yeah, from cozy privacy to instant horror. No time to prepare.
Not at all.
Then the vampire moved toward them. Toward. T-O-W-A-R-D. Means moving in the direction of something or someone.
Indicates a path. The boy ran toward the ball, heading for the ball.
Exactly. So the vampire walked toward the couple, getting closer, step by step.
Closing the distance, escalating the terror.
Precisely. Their safe space just vanished.
And the room itself felt ugly.
Ugly. U-G-L-Y usually means not nice to look at, right? Unattractive.
Yeah, that monster is very ugly. About appearance.
But it can also mean just bad or unpleasant in other ways, like an ugly mood or an ugly situation.
Ah, okay. So in the story.
It says the room had an ugly feeling. It wasn't about how it looked. It means the atmosphere became hostile, uncomfortable because of the argument and, well, the vampire.
Got it. A feeling, not just looks. And the vampire, he was looking for a victim.
Victim, V-I-C-T-I-M, someone who gets hurt or attacked by a person, an animal, a situation.
Like the thief stole from the victim, the person who suffered.
Exactly, and the vampire was looking for a victim, someone to bite. That word just makes his intention crystal clear. The danger is immediate.
And his eyes, they were wide. W-I-D-E.
Wide means big and open or broad across.
Like the road is wide. Lots of space side to side.
Right, and the chilling detail is the vampire's eyes were wide open.
What does that suggest?
Intense focus, maybe?
Yeah.
Ready to attack? It just makes them look even more menacing, more inhuman.
Creepy. Okay, at the heart of this are the young couple.
Young couple, pretty straightforward phrase.
Yeah.
Two young people, in love, usually together. Boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe married.
Like my sister and her boyfriend are a young couple.
Exactly. And David and Emma, they were the young couple in our story, enjoying their night before it all went wrong.
They represent that vulnerable innocence, don't they?
Yeah, facing this ancient evil.
In the end, the vampire, he seemed to just disappear.
Disappear. D-I-S-A-P-P-E-A-R means to go away suddenly. Vanish, so no one can see you anymore.
Like magic. The bird disappeared into the sky, poof, gone.
Right. And at the end of Bad Blood, the vampire disappeared into the night. Just vanished, leaving them alone.
Emphasizes his supernatural power, maybe, and how unreal the whole encounter was.
Yeah, exactly, like smoke.
His voice was described with the word hiss.
Hiss, H-I-S-S, to make a sound like a snake, that long sound.
Or to speak like that, low and angry.
Yeah, it can mean that too. Like the cat hissed when it was angry,
Hmm.
that sharp warning sound, and the vampire, he hissed when he spoke.
Instantly scary and inhuman.
Totally. Adds another layer to his monstrousness. Really unsettling.
David eventually realized what was going on.
Realize, R-E-A-L-I-S-E, or Z-E in American English, means to suddenly understand something you didn't get before, that aha moment.
Like a light bulb clicks on. I realized I left my keys at home. Oh, now I remember.
Exactly. So David was confused first, remember? But then he realized the man was asking about the bathroom.
The small understanding that leads to a much bigger, scarier one.
Yeah, the dawning horror.
And the vampire certainly could terrify them.
Terrify, T-E-R-R-I-F-Y, means to make someone very, very scared. To fill them with extreme fear.
More than just scared, like overwhelmed by it.
Right, the loud noise terrified the dog, sent it running and hiding. And the vampire, he absolutely terrified Emma and David.
Plunged them into that intense, consuming fear. Helpless.
Completely.
In that state, David wasn't certain what to do.
Certain. C-E-R-T-A-I-N. If you're certain, you are completely sure. No doubt at all.
Knowing for sure, I am certain this is the right answer. Confident.
Right, but David wasn't certain what to do. It shows his panic, his indecision in this awful situation.
Fear messing with his ability to think clearly.
Absolutely disorienting.
Then came that awful choice. Either David or Emma.
Ugh. Yes, either. E-I-T-H-E-R means one or the other of two things.
Yeah.
But not both. You pick one from two options.
Like you could take either the red pen or the blue pen. One choice only.
Exactly. And the vampire forced them to choose either David or Emma as his victim.
An impossible, terrifying position, tearing them apart.
Truly horrible.
And finally, that phrase that ends their ordeal for the rest of their lives.
Powerful phrase. For the rest of their lives. It means, well, forever. For all the time until they die.
Often used romantically, right? They stayed together for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. But in Bad Blood, it's chilling. The couple is left alone, together, for the rest of their lives.
Darkly ironic. Bound together not just by love, but by this shared horror.
Exactly. A constant reminder of what they went through. Forever changed.
Wow. That was quite a journey. Through words and through terror. You've just unpacked, what, 38 key words from Bad Blood?
Yeah, something like that. And hopefully you listening don't just know what they mean now, but you sort of feel how they worked in this story, how they built the tension.
How they created that atmosphere. We really hope you grasp these words much better now, feel more confident with them.
And notice, right, even simple words like shine or still, they can have immense power when used well. Evoke really strong feelings.
That's the real deep dive into language, isn't it? So keep practicing, keep listening. Don't be afraid to maybe rewind, review these words.
Yeah, the more you engage with them, the more natural they'll become for you in English.
Remember, every word tells a part of the story, and every story is built with words. Keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep learning. This has been the Deep Dive English Learning Marathon.
We'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, welcome to the English Learning Marathon. I'm Jake.
And I'm Marceline. Today, we're doing a Q&A episode using the story Bad Blood. We'll ask each other questions, and you, our listener, can answer too. Just pause and think before we give the answer.
Let's dive in. Who were the two main characters in the story?
David and Emma. They were a young couple in love. Were David and Emma married at the beginning of the story?
No, they weren't married yet, but David was planning to propose. Where were they sitting when the story began?
They were sitting at a table in a romantic restaurant. Was the light in the restaurant bright or soft?
It was soft. The light came from candles. It was very romantic. What made David feel brave?
Emma's smile made him feel brave. She held his hand, too. What was David about to ask?
He was about to ask Emma to marry him. Who was watching them from the corner?
A strange man. He wasn't reading the menu. He was just watching. Did David feel nervous at any point?
Yes, suddenly he felt nervous and went to the bathroom. What did David say to himself in the mirror?
He said, "Come on, David, you can do this, mate." Did David bump into someone outside the bathroom?
Yes, he almost walked into a very tall man with cold blue eyes. How did the man speak to David?
He hissed and asked, "Which one?" in a strange accent. Did David understand the question?
Not at first, but then he thought the man meant the toilet. What was David hiding in his pocket?
A ring. He was ready to propose to Emma. Did Emma say yes?
Yes, she did. They were so happy in the taxi ride home. What did they say to each other in the taxi?
They shared sweet words and dreams about the future. Was anyone watching them near their home?
Yes, the vampire was watching from the shadows. How did the vampire know which flat was theirs?
He waited until he saw their light come on in the window. Did the vampire go inside?
Yes, he got in by pressing all the buttons. Someone let him in. What made the vampire feel happy?
He liked the sound of young love. It made the blood sweeter.
What happened when the vampire opened the door?
The couple screamed and held each other in fear. Did David try to give him something?
Yes, he offered his wallet and told the vampire to take anything.
Did the vampire want the wallet?
No, he said, "I will take anything I want." Very creepy.
What question did the vampire keep asking?
Which one? He needed to choose one person to drink from.
Who did David try to protect?
He tried to protect Emma. He stood in front of her.
Was Emma thankful?
Yes, at first, but then she thought maybe he should sacrifice himself.
Did they argue?
Oh, yes, they had a big, silly argument about who the vampire should take.
Was the vampire enjoying their fight?
Not at all. He was getting annoyed and tired of their drama.
What did the vampire shout before he left?
He shouted, "Bad blood," and disappeared into the night.
Did he drink anyone's blood?
Nope, he left them alone. They were too annoying.
So what happened to David and Emma in the end?
They were still together for the rest of their lives.
Kind of a happy ending, or maybe just lucky.
Or maybe the vampire just had better taste.
And that's our Q&A podcast for Bad Blood.
Thanks for listening, and remember, pause, think, answer, and listen again to repeat.
This was English Learning Marathon. See you next time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Learning Marathon. I'm Jake.
And I'm Marceline. Today, we're doing something special. We're going to retell the story, Bad Blood, from different points of view and in different tenses.
That's right, this helps you hear the same story with different grammar, which makes it easier to learn English naturally.
Version 1. Past tense. Third-person narrator. Let's start with how it originally happened. Here's the story in the past tense, as it happened last night.
David and Emma were having a romantic dinner. The candles were glowing, the music was perfect, and they were in love.
David looked at Emma and forgot all his past pain. He wanted to propose. She smiled and held his hand.
Meanwhile, a strange man watched them from across the room. He wasn't reading the menu. His eyes were fixed on the couple.
David got nervous and went to the bathroom. On the way out, he met the strange man who hissed, "Which one?"
Later that night, the vampire followed them home. He tricked his way into their building, listened at their door, and finally entered.
They screamed. He wanted to choose one to feed on, but the couple began to argue about who should be sacrificed.
In the end, the vampire shouted, "Bad blood," and left them alone, too annoyed to drink their love-tainted fear.
Version 2. Present tense. Happening now. Now let's hear the story in the present tense, as if it's happening right now.
David and Emma sit across from each other. The food is delicious, and they are in love.
David looks at her and feels brave. He's about to ask her to marry him.
A tall, pale man watches them. He doesn't eat. He doesn't speak. He waits.
David suddenly feels nervous. He goes to the bathroom. When he comes out, he bumps into the strange man who hissed, "Which one?"
Later, they return home, smiling and dreaming, but the vampire is following.
He gets into their building, listens at their door, then enters silently.
The couple screams. Then they argue. Who should die for the other?
But the vampire hates their arguing. He shouts, "Bad blood," and leaves, because even a vampire has standards. Version 3. Future tense. As if it hasn't happened yet.
Now let's imagine it hasn't happened yet. Here's the story in future tense.
David and Emma will go out to dinner. They'll sit at a romantic table and enjoy the night.
David will look at her and decide to propose. She'll smile and he will feel brave.
But in the corner of the restaurant, a vampire will be watching. He won't move, but he will stare.
David will go to the bathroom to calm himself. There, he'll meet the strange man, who will hiss a strange question, "Which one?"
Later, the couple will go home, not knowing they are being followed.
The vampire will get into their building. He will stand outside their door listening to their sweet words.
Then he will enter. They will scream. They will argue. And in the end,
he will shout "bad blood" and leave, because even a vampire has standards.
bonus version. First person, from David's point of view. Okay, now let's hear it from David's point of view. First person. This helps show emotion.
I looked at Emma and everything felt perfect. I knew I wanted to spend my life with her.
I reached for her hand. My heart was pounding. But then I saw him, the tall man, watching us.
I felt nervous. I went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and told myself, "You can do this, mate."
But when I came out, he was there. He asked, "Which one?" I didn't understand.
Later, we were home. Then he was there, in our flat, asking that question again. Which one? I wanted to protect her. I stood in front of her, but she said maybe I should be the one to die.
We started fighting right in front of him. I felt embarrassed, scared, angry.
In the end, he just shouted "bad blood" and left. We were lucky, but something had changed between us. And that's today's Point of View episode.
Remember, hearing the same story in different tenses helps you feel the grammar.
Keep listening, keep repeating, and don't get caught by a vampire.
This is English Learning Marathon. See you next time.
Welcome, curious minds, to another exciting deep dive. Today we're doing something a bit special within our English Learning Marathon.
That's right. We're focusing on grammar analysis by story.
Exactly. We're not just, breaking down a story. We're using it as a fantastic lens to see how English grammar actually works in practice.
Because grammar rules, when you just learn them from a list, they can feel really abstract, kind of dry.
Totally.
But seeing them woven into a story, especially a gripping one like Bad Blood, Well, that's different. It really brings the grammar to life.
And bad blood is perfect for this. It's got twists, emotion, and, as it turns out, loads of great grammar examples.
It really does. So we're going to look at David and Emma's, let's say, memorable encounter and pull out some key linguistic nuggets.
Okay, so our mission today is to unpack these grammar points. We want you to not just get the rules, but really grasp why they're used and how they shape the story you hear or read. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding some key English structures.
All while enjoying the plot.
Let's get started then. 1, past simple tense. Okay, first up, let's talk about probably the most common tense you find in stories like Bad Blood, the past simple.
The past simple, yes. It's your absolute workhorse for actions that were finished, completed at a specific time in the past.
It's what moves the plot along, tells us what happened.
Exactly. It signals a done deal, a moment that's over, and forming it, for regular verbs anyway, is usually pretty straightforward. You just add ed.
Right, like in the story, David and Emma looked at each other across the table. That look, it happened, it's finished.
Or that feeling David had. All the pain of his last breakup simply disappeared. Boom, gone, completed action.
And that really key moment. His hand reached out and touched hers. Both verbs, reached and touched, are past simple, marking those specific finished actions.
Those regular ed verbs are everywhere. But then, English likes to keep us on our toes with irregular verbs.
Yes, the fun ones.
The fun ones. They don't follow the ed rule. They have their own special past forms. You just have to learn them.
Like in the story, David felt so excited. Feel becomes felt.
Precisely. Or when the light went on in a third-floor window.
Yeah.
Go becomes went. You see how that immediately signals something new happened back then?
Yeah, definitely. And getting those irregulars right is super important. They're so common.
Absolutely.
So if past simple is for completed past actions, how is it different from, say, the present simple? Because present simple can also talk about things that happen.
Good question. The present simple is more for general truths, habits, things that happen repeatedly, or facts that are true now, like the sun rises in the east.
Okay, timeless stuff.
Kind of, yeah. Whereas past simple pins an action to the past. It's finished. Think about the vampire. A strange man watched them. That specific act of watching happened then. It was a completed event in the story's timeline, not his general habit necessarily, although it might be part of one.
Got it. And common mistakes here, I bet it's forgetting the ed, right? Or mixing up the irregulars.
You nailed it. Forgetting the ed on regular verbs is super common. Or trying to make regular verbs regular, like saying field instead of felt or good instead of went.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's natural to want a simple rule, but you just got to practice those irregular forms. 2, present simple tense. Okay, now let's switch gears a bit and talk about the present simple tense.
Right, so even though Bad Blood is mostly telling a past story, present simple still pops up.
It does, especially in dialogue. It's perfect for showing immediate feelings, current states, or characters making general observations.
So this is for those general truths, facts, habits, schedules, even instructions sometimes. And the key thing is usually the base verb, but you need that S or is for he, she, or it.
And that's the one, the third person singular S. And for negatives and questions, we usually bring in do or does.
Unless
it's the verb to be.
Right. Am, is, are. They do their own thing.
Exactly. Look at the dialogue in Bad Blood. David tells Emma, "You are so wonderful." That's present simple, using are to describe her current state in his eyes.
And Emma says back, and you're absolutely beautiful. Again, are in your describing a current quality.
And David's description of Emma, her hair smells of roses. See, that smells with the has, because hair is like, it describes a general ongoing characteristic. It's not just smelling like roses at that one moment.
Okay, I see. It feels immediate in the dialogue.
It does. And even David's desperate plea to the vampire, take anything you want, that want is present simple, expressing his current urgent desire right then and there.
It really brings the dialogue to life, makes their feelings feel very present.
That's the power of using it within a past narrative. It contrasts nicely.
Yeah.
Past simple moves the story events forward. Present simple in dialogue shows us what characters are thinking or feeling right now.
So, common mistakes. Forgetting the S for has heads.
Definitely number one. It's small but crucial. And also, yeah, trying to use do or does with to be. Remember, is, don't need help for questions or negatives. You say, is she happy? Not, does she be happy?
Got it. Good reminder. 3, past perfect tense. All right, let's go deeper into the past now with the past perfect tense. This one can sometimes feel a bit tricky, right? Because we're talking about the past before the main past action.
It can feel like you need a little mental timeline, yeah.
Huh.
But it's incredibly useful. Past perfect is for an action that happened before another specific action or time point in the past.
So it's like past.
Huh. Yeah, you can think of it that way. It gives backstory or explains why something was the way it was later on. The structure is always had, plus the past participle, that's the third verb form, or the ed form for regular verbs.
Okay, so it adds context. Like in Bad Blood, when David is feeling really happy with Emma, the story says, all his doubts and fears about love had gone.
Exactly. See how that works? His doubts had gone before that moment of happiness. It tells us why he felt so purely happy right then. It sets the stage for his current emotion.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. It gives depth. What about when David first sees the vampire?
Another great example, it says, David had never heard that accent before.
Yeah.
The not hearing happened before that scary moment in the bathroom.
So it immediately tells us this is something new, something alien to David's experience up to that point.
Precisely. It underlines the strangeness, the unexpectedness of the encounter. And think about the vampire's thoughts. How many times had he stood on a corner like this? How many victims had he watched?
Right. Those actions, standing, watching, happened multiple times before he saw David and Emma.
It gives you that chilling sense of his long, repetitive, predatory history, all completed before this current observation. It establishes him instantly.
So the past perfect really clarifies the sequence. It tells you, hey, this happened first, and it affects what's happening now in the main past timeline.
You got it. And a common mistake is just using past simple when past perfect would be clearer, especially if the order of events isn't obvious.
Yeah.
You need to ask, did this happen before the other past thing I'm talking about? If yes, past perfect is probably your friend.
Cool. That clarifies it a lot.
All right, let's switch from verbs for a moment and talk about adjectives. These are the words that add color and detail.
The describing words, they tell us what kind, what something looks like, feels like, sounds like.
Exactly. They describe nouns, people, places, things. And a nice thing in English is they don't change. It's always beautiful, whether it's one beautiful smile or many beautiful flowers.
Yeah, that's handy, unlike some other languages.
Definitely. Now, adjectives come in a few flavors. Simple ones like good, bad, happy. Derivative ones made from other words like useful from use or terrified from terrify. And compound ones like well-known or blue-eyed.
And Bad Blood uses them loads to create atmosphere, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think Emma's beautiful smile or the vampire's description, cold eyes, bright blue eyes. Those details immediately build a picture.
And it continues, extremely tall man, sharp pointed nose, thin pale lips. It's really painting him vividly.
It is. And we also get strong and strange accent, a wonderful taxi ride, a happy couple, sweet feelings, all setting scenes and moods.
And later, the tension, terrified silence, and the vampire calling David a horrible man, and humans disgusting creatures. Adjectives are doing heavy lifting there.
They really are. Now, if you use more than one adjective for the same noun, there's actually a generally preferred order.
Oh, yeah. I remember learning this. It's like opinion, size, age, shape, color, something like that.
That's the gist. The usual order is something like quantity, opinion, size, quality, age, shape, color, origin, material, purpose. You rarely use more than two or three, though.
Like cold, bright blue eyes in the story that's quality and color.
Exactly. It sounds natural. And then you have specific quantity adjectives, the quantifiers.
Like many and much, few and little.
Those are the main ones. Many for things you can count, like many victims. Much for things you can't count, like much fear or much time.
And few versus a few, little versus a little.
Right. Few and little mean not many or not much, often implying it's not enough. A few and a little mean some, a small amount, but maybe sufficient. The story mentions the vampire had plenty of time, which nicely sidesteps the much issue plenty of, works for both countable and uncountable.
Ah, handy phrase. So, common mistakes. Getting the order wrong or mixing up many and much.
Those are the big ones, yeah. Incorrect order can sound really awkward, and the countable-uncountable thing with quantifiers trips up a lot of learners. 5, indirect speech. Reported speech.
Okay, now for something that often feels like a real jump in complexity. Indirect speech or reported speech. This is when we talk about what someone else said, but not using their exact words.
Yes, and it involves some key changes, which is where it gets interesting and sometimes tricky. You usually have to change pronouns, shift the verb tense back, called backshift, and sometimes change time and place words too.
Right, so if David says directly in the moment, I want to ask you something, If we report that later, it becomes something like, David said he wanted to ask her something.
Perfect. See, I became he, you became her, and want, present simple, became wanted, past simple. It's like retelling it from the narrator's perspective, usually looking back from the past.
And Emma's reply, direct. Whatever it is, I'll probably say yes. Indirect would be, Emma said she would probably say yes, whatever it was.
Exactly. I will. Backshifts to she would, and is backshifts to was. Even David talking to himself. Come on, David. You could do this. She's crazy about you. We could report that as David told himself he could do that, and that she was crazy about him. Can becomes could. It is becomes was.
It's like a system of adjustments.
It is. And another thing that makes reported speech powerful in stories is the choice of reporting verb. Instead of just always using said, authors use verbs that add emotion or detail.
Like in Bad Blood.
Oh, yeah. Emma replied to David. The vampire hissed. David cried out in fear. Emma screamed in anger.
Wow, yeah. Hissed gives such a different feeling than just said.
Totally. We also see David pointed and the vampire shouted. These verbs tell us how something was said, adding a whole layer of character and drama.
So mistakes here probably involve messing up the backshift. Or the pronouns.
Definitely. Forgetting to shift the tense back is very common, especially if the reporting verb, said, asked, etc. is in the past. Pronoun mix-ups happen too. And another big one is reported questions. You have to change the word order back to a statement structure.
Ah, right. So which one, direct question, becomes the vampire asked which one, not asked which one it was, or something like that.
Exactly. You lose the direct question word order. Takes practice. 6. Modal verbs.
Yep.
Will and would. Okay, let's look at a couple of really common modal verbs. Will and would. Modals are helper verbs, remember. They add meaning like intention, possibility, permission, obligation to the main verb.
And they're always followed by the base form of the verb, right? No to.
Correct. No to after modals. So, will often expresses future intention, promises, or strong determination in the present or future.
Like Emma saying, whatever it is, I'll probably say yes. That all shows her willingness, her intention.
Spot on. And then you have the vampire's really strong insistence, I will take anything I want. That's not just a plan, it's pure determination, almost a threat.
Yeah, it sounds much stronger than just, I'm gonna take.
It does. And David promising the vampire, we won't stop you, I promise. That will not, is a strong commitment made under duress.
So what about would? Is it just the past of will?
It often functions that way, especially in reported speech like we just saw.
Yep.
Emma said she would say yes, but would also does other things. It's used a lot for politeness for hypothetical situations.
Like, would you like a drink? That's polite.
Exactly. And for talking about past habits sometimes. When I was young, I would go fishing every summer.
Yeah.
And importantly, for preferences.
Ah, like would rather and would prefer to.
Yes. We would rather stay home tonight.
Okay.
Or I would prefer to leave early. Notice would rather takes the base verb directly, but would prefer needs to. Little quirk.
Okay. So common mistakes with will and would, putting to after them.
That's probably the biggest one. Remembering modals take the base verb directly is key. And sometimes just confusion about when to use will for future versus intention, but context usually helps there.
Yeah.
7. Modal verbs, should and ought to.
Okay, let's stick with modals. How about should and ought to? These seem to be about advice or obligation, right?
That's exactly right. They're used for recommendations, saying what's the right or best thing to do, or expressing a sort of mild obligation.
Are they basically the same?
Pretty much. Should is more common. Ought to can sound a bit more formal, maybe slightly stronger, but they often overlap. Now, interestingly, in the direct dialogue of Bad Blood, we don't see them used much, if at all.
Oh, okay. But the situations definitely make you think about what the characters should have done.
Absolutely. That's where they become relevant for discussion. You read the story and think, gosh, David should have been more suspicious. Or, maybe looking back at their argument, they really ought to have controlled their tempers. We use them hypothetically to evaluate the character's actions.
So the negative forms are should not or shouldn't, and ought not to or oughtn't to.
Correct. Like the advice, you shouldn't walk alone late at night.
And they're really useful for talking about past regrets, aren't they? Using should have.
Yes. Should have plus past participle, or ought to have plus past participle, is perfect for expressing regret or criticizing a past action, saying something different would have been better. David and Emma should have left the flat immediately. It implies they didn't, and it was probably a mistake.
Okay, that's a really useful structure. Common errors here, maybe mixing up should and must.
That's a big one. Must is much stronger. It's usually about necessity or very strong obligation, often external rules. Should is more like advice, what's advisable or expected. And again, just like other modals, no to after should. Remember, ought to has the to built in, but should doesn't.
Got it. Should go, ought to go.
You got it. 8. Conditionals. Types of conditional sentences. All right, last big topic for today, conditional sentences. These are the if-then sentences. They link a condition with a result or consequence.
And there are different types depending on how real or likely the situation is.
Exactly. Let's break them down. First, the zero conditional. This is for general truth, scientific facts, things that are always true if the condition is met. Both parts use the present simple.
Like the classic, if you heat water to 100 degrees Celsius, it boils.
Perfect example. Always true. Then there's the first conditional. This is for real or very possible situations in the present or future. The structure is if plus present simple, then will plus base verb.
So, thinking about David and Emma before things went wrong, if David asks Emma to marry him, she will probably say yes. It's a likely future possibility.
Exactly. Real possibility, likely outcome. Now, the second conditional is where we get more hypothetical or unreal, usually talking about the present or future. It's if plus past simple.
And use were for everyone, formally, right? If I were, if she were.
Right, especially in more formal contexts, were is preferred for all subjects. Then the result clause is would, could, might plus base verb. It talks about things that are unlikely, imaginary, or contrary to present fact.
Like if David thought, looking at the vampire, if I were stronger, I could fight him. He's not stronger, so it's hypothetical.
Perfect. Or relating to Emma saying, I feel as if I'm in a film, we could rephrase the feeling. If this were a film, it would be terrifying.
Yeah.
It's comparing the unreal situation to reality.
Okay. And the last main one, the third conditional.
This one looks back at the past, at unreal past situations and their unreal past consequences, often used for regrets. The structure is if plus past perfect, then would, could, might have plus past participle.
So thinking about the end of Bad Blood, the argument saved them, weirdly. We could say, if they hadn't argued, the vampire might have chosen one of them?
Exactly. It describes an alternative past that didn't happen, speculating on a different outcome. A classic regret example is, if I'd studied harder, I would have passed the exam. Implies you didn't study, and you didn't pass.
And sometimes these get mixed up, right? Mixed conditionals.
They do. You can have a past condition with a present result or a general condition with a past result. They follow the logic of the time frames. Like, if I hadn't drunk so much coffee last night, past, I wouldn't feel so jittery now, present.
Wow, okay. Lots to keep track of, and commas, only if the if part comes first.
That's the general rule, yes. If it rains, we'll stay home. But we'll stay home if it rains, no comma. The biggest mistake is just mixing up the tenses in the different clauses for each type. Getting the right tense pairing is crucial.
Phew. Okay, that was quite the journey through Bad Blood and its grammar. It really does show how these structures work together to build a story.
It really does. Seeing past simple drive the action, past perfect add background, adjectives paint the picture, reported speech convey character voices, modals add layers of intention or possibility, and conditionals explore what-if scenarios. It all comes together.
So it's not just about rules on a page. It's about understanding the tools writers use to create effects, build tension, and show character.
Precisely. It's about seeing how language functions dynamically in a real context.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. Next time you're reading or listening to a story in English, maybe even re-listen to Bad Blood if you like. Try to notice these things. How does the choice of tense affects the pacing? What adjectives really stand out? How is dialogue reported?
Ask yourself, how do these grammatical choices actually shape your experience of the narrative? What stands out to you when you start looking at a story through this grammar lens?
It can really change how you appreciate the craft.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this grammatical deep dive within the English Learning Marathon.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Keep learning, keep exploring those stories.
Until next time.